Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this fascinating mental glitch that affects pretty much everything we do, from our hobbies all the way up to billion-dollar business decisions. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and trust me, it has a really sneaky way of shaping our reality. So let me just ask you this, straight up. Are you really as good as you think you are? I know, it's a tough question. But what if I told you your answer might be shaped less by reality and more by a powerful cognitive bias? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. All right, so let's get right to it. What exactly is this mental glitch? To really get it, we've got to go back to the beginning, to the core idea that makes it so dangerously human. Okay, so here's the textbook definition. The Dunning-Kruger effect is this cognitive bias where people who have really limited skill or knowledge in something, they massively overestimate how good they are. They basically don't even know they're incompetent. This whole idea was first documented in a landmark 1999 study from two Cornell psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. And what they found was wild. The absolute worst performers were also the most blissfully unaware of just how badly they were doing. And this quote right here, this gets to the heart of the whole paradox. To know you're bad at something, you actually need a certain amount of skill in that very thing. Think about it, right? A truly terrible singer often doesn't have the musical ear to even hear that they're off key. Dunning and Kruger called this a double burden. It's like not only are you incompetent, but you're missing the very tool you need to even realize. This visualizes the journey pretty much everyone goes on when they learn something new. We all start at the top, on what's famously called Mount Stupid. You learn a tiny bit about a subject and bam, you feel like a genius. But then, as you keep learning, you realize how much you don't know, and you tumble down into the valley of despair. It's a humbling place. But if you stick with it, you start the slow, steady climb up the slope of enlightenment. This is where your confidence and your actual competence finally start to match up, until you eventually reach that plateau of sustainability. That's where the real experts live, the ones who know what they know and know what they don't. Now, I know this might all sound like some funny little psychological quirk, but in the real world, especially in the workplace, the consequences are, they're anything but funny. This is where the theory gets seriously dangerous. Okay, check this out. Take the world of finance. A study found that 78% of financial managers rated their own performance as above average. Now, you don't have to be a math whiz to know that's, statistically impossible, right? This isn't just a little bit of ego. This is a systemic overconfidence that has very real consequences for people's money. And look at the fallout from that kind of thinking. A staggering 70 to 90% of all corporate mergers and acquisitions, they fail. They just don't deliver the value they were supposed to. And a huge reason why? Executive overconfidence. They overestimate the benefits, they underestimate the problems, and they end up paying way too much. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect playing out with billions, literally billions of dollars on the line. And this perception gap, it's just everywhere. Just look at this chart on employee engagement. Leaders almost always think things are going way better than they actually are. So management might see engagement way up here at a 90, but for the actual employees on the ground, the reality is closer to a 60. That gap, that's where good people quit and productivity just goes to die. And this can lead to a really toxic dynamic on teams. Think about the last big meeting you were in. The loudest, most confident voices in the room often belong to the people with the least expertise. Meanwhile, the real experts, the ones who actually understand the nuances and the complexity, they express caution. But that caution gets misinterpreted as being uncertain or not having conviction, and so their crucial insights just get steamrolled. All right, to really bring this home, let's look at a classic cautionary tale. It's one of the most famous business failures in history, and it's a story that just perfectly captures the devastating power of this bias. Kodak. They literally invented the very technology that would eventually destroy them. Back in 1975, one of their own engineers built the first ever digital camera. But for decades, Kodak's leadership was just blinded. They were so successful with film that they dismissed digital photography. They thought it was a toy, a little niche product that could never, ever threaten their main business. by the time they finally woke up and realized their colossal mistake, it was just too late. In 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy. This is a perfect textbook case of the Dunning-Kruger effect on a massive corporate scale. Kodak's executives were so overconfident in their understanding of the photography market that they were completely incapable of seeing the revolution they were holding in their own hands. It was a catastrophic failure of self-awareness. They just didn't know what they didn't know. Okay, so that's all pretty scary, right? If we're all vulnerable to this, what in the world do we do about it? Well, the good news is there are real, concrete strategies we can use, both as individuals and as organizations, to fight back against our own worst instinct. On a personal level, it all starts with self-awareness. You have to actively, consciously fight your own biases. Make it a habit to question your own assumptions. Intentionally go find people who see the world differently, who disagree with you. And maybe the hardest part, don't just ask for criticism. Create a space where people feel genuinely safe enough to give it to you straight. No sugarcoating. And for organizations, the answer is to build safeguards right into the system. You have to create processes that force people to challenge ideas, like formalize a devil's advocate role in big meetings, and then actually reward the person who pokes holes in the popular plan. And bring in outside auditors to give you a truly objective look at your blind spots. You just can't trust your own confidence. Ultimately, the real antidote to the Dunning-Kruger effect is this idea called intellectual humility. Now, this is not about being insecure or wishy-washy, not at all. It's about having the confidence to say, I don't know, and having the wisdom to listen to and value the expertise of people who do. And this isn't just some feel-good, fluffy concept. It has a real, measurable impact on the bottom line. Research has shown that companies led by executives who score high on intellectual humility are a staggering 31% more profitable than their competitors. Think about that. Humility, it turns out, is a massive competitive advantage. So I want to leave you with one final thought to take with you. Let's go back to that curve we saw earlier. Be honest with yourself. Where are you on it, really? And maybe even more important, who are you asking for directions? Because figuring out the answer to that question, that's the first and most critical step toward real wisdom.